In this week's Torah portion, we have a very large section of it that is called the admonitions. They are words of rebuke that will occur to the Jewish people when we don't behave and we don't do what we're supposed to. And unfortunately, throughout the years, from the time of the Romans, the Babylonians, and forward, we've always been at the mercy and have felt the brunt and the forcefulness of their destruction towards us. And unfortunately, these words of this week's Torah portion, we have seen them come true time and time again. Now, while that may be our point of view, it still doesn't give anybody else a right to mistreat us. Anti-Semitism cannot look towards our Torah and say, hold on a second, your own God said that other nations are going to control you. You'll be at the mercy of them. That's not your calculation, that's God's calculation. And the fact of the matter is that we know that anti-Semitism has been around forever, even at times when we behaved correctly. In fact, we know that the Torah was given at Mount Sinai, and the word Sinai shares the same root of the word like sin'ah, which means hatred. And it was a message to us, actually, that the Jewish nation should know that from the time that you accept the Torah, from the moment that you acquire this moral compass, then the rest of the world will slowly begin to dislike you. The Talmud tells us an interesting thing, that there are two different types of anti-Semites. And it gives us a parable of two people. In fact, the people of this parable is known as Achashverosh and the famous Haman, where one has a mound of earth, one that he doesn't want because it's just in the middle of his field, doesn't belong there, and the other one has a ditch, a hole. And the person says, can I buy your earth to fill my hole? And the other one says, you don't have to buy it at all. I've got a mound of earth that I want to get rid of. And you have a purpose to fill your hole. I'll give you my earth for free. And basically what the two people represent is they both have a problem. It's called the Jewish people. And they can both serve each other and accomplish their goals of getting rid of the problem. One will get rid of the mound, and the other will fill the ditch. But the truth is, what does it mean that one has a mound and one has a ditch? Because, like I mentioned, there are two different types of anti-Semites. There's one type of anti-Semite that basically says, you Jews, you stand out. Why do you always have to be different than everyone else? Do you have to wear different clothes? Do you have to eat different foods? Can you not drink our wine? Can you not go to our temples of worship? You're like a mound. You stick out like a sore thumb. And basically, they don't like Jews on the basis that they just simply don't blend in. And then there's a second type of anti-Semite. He views the Jews as a ditch. Why? Because the Jewish people have become the moral conscience of the world. And by being the moral conscience of the world, it exposes this emptiness, this hole that exists in the heart of the anti-Semite or in the heart of the other nations. So they both dislike us, but for two different reasons. One, he's like the person who doesn't like anybody that looks differently. But the second one is probably a more ardent anti-Semite. He's bothered by our presence because we remind them of their own misdeeds, shortcomings, emptiness, and the ill behavior that's been self-serving for them, and they don't want anyone to ever call them out. Now, Jews have tried to overcome this anti-Semitism in two ways. One, if you want to get rid of the mound anti-Semite, you try to blend in. But we know that assimilation has never worked. The second anti-Semite who sees us as a ditch, creating a hole in their whole system of self-consciousness and morality. So what do we think? We can't be the world's policeman. And that hasn't helped either. Somehow being quiet, not bothering anybody, that hasn't made them not notice us. So what do we learn? We're not going to escape what God created us for. We're not going to be able to dismiss our mission and purpose on this world. So one, don't worry about standing out. The more that you're proud, and the more that you're unwilling to look like someone else because they want you to, eventually they'll have respect for you. And two, from the times of Sinai, embrace your mission to be a lamp, to be a light unto all the other nations. Because as we look around the world, most people are getting it. They're just too weak to join us in fighting the evil around the world. But the more that we stick to it, the more that we are unwaveringly unapologetic about what's right, ultimately, the rest of the world will follow and thank us for standing up to the ills and evils of this world. They're afraid to say it, but they know that ultimately we are doing